Welcome back to the Vanessa Show. Coming up, Ben found reasons to be cheerful. What did you do? Run away and join the circus?
Well, I was just hanging out, two Russian twins that absolutely, look at that. It's absolutely, look at me with a carpet. I was spinning a carpet on my hand. I did a lot better than that. You'll see it in the actual video. Look at that. Oh, come on.
Natural, fantastic. But first of all, let's meet Jeff. Hang on a minute. Jeff's not actually your real name, is it?
No, my name's James, but I could never spell James. So my mum, when I was going into the senior school at school, I'd be about 9, 10 years of age, she said, from now on you're going to be called Jeff, J-E-F, which I could handle that. So that was my name for the rest of my life.
At school, when you realised that you couldn't read, and your mum realised that you couldn't read, bless her, she thought of all sorts of explanations for why you couldn't read, didn't she?
Yes. She asked the teachers to put me right at the front of the class because she thought I couldn't see the board. Then she went and got me a pair of these really old-fashioned glasses with my ears stuck out. She went and got me a pair of them and made me wear them for another year or two, which I didn't need.
And we've got pictures of you as a little one with these great big glasses on. You didn't even need them.
Dreadful.
Then she was worried you might be deaf.
Yeah, and then she had all these things. She just thought everything except what it was, which was, they didn't know what dyslexic was. I was severely dyslexic. They used to call it word blindness in those days. But it just didn't work for me.
Can you remember it? Can you remember the teacher writing a word on the board and what you thought it said and what was going on inside your brain at the time?
Yeah, well, the teacher would even come and sit with me and she'd write the simplest words like cat or mat, 3-letter words. And then I would copy with her and she'd see me doing it and then she'd say, right, I'll come back in 15 minutes. And she'd go away, come back, and then she'd ask me to do it again. And because I couldn't do it, she couldn't understand that. And she thought I was being disruptive because all the other children started laughing. So she thought I was doing this to wind her up.
Yeah, playing to the gallery.
Yeah.
But you weren't.
But I weren't.
No.
It just got mixed up. So then she used to put me in the corner and make me face the wall with a dunster's hat on, which actually did me no good whatsoever.
Not helpful. No. And obviously you knew that you weren't being annoying and difficult. Yeah. You knew that you just couldn't figure it out.
I was really trying hard, Vanessa, to learn. I really wanted to learn, but with the torture it became the shame, and I just lived with this shame, so I kept away from it as much as I could.
And because in any normal lesson you've got to read, you've got to write, otherwise you can't keep up. Were you ducking out of school and trying to escape?
Well, what I did do, I didn't bunk school, but what I did do is got into every sports team there was, football, swimming, you name it, and I got into that team. I even got into the chess team. I was playing chess, but I couldn't write my own name. So anything that got me out of classes was a plus for me.
I suppose it's hardly surprising that you left school at 14, but by that time you had discovered that you were most certainly not thick because you had an aptitude, almost like a God-given gift.
Well, yes, my mum brought us up on the markets in Liverpool selling second-hand clothes, and I was the youngest of 5, and what happened was I used to accompany her everywhere she went. So from my earliest memories of 5 years of age, I'd be on a market stall, and my mum, if she had to go anywhere, I was in charge. And she'd say, look after it. And I became, an entrepreneur at a very early age. Yeah. I mean, I used to do naughty things like going to school. And one particular time I took a cigar, a King Edward cigar, and I sold it to all the boys in the toilets for a penny a puff. and I made a fortune, So I was a very young entrepreneur.
So you were savvy. I mean, you had nous, you had street smarts. So you knew you weren't thick. Your mother knew you weren't. You knew you were capable of doing deals, of seeing opportunities. Yeah. And at which point does Gina come along? Because this is your lovely wife, Gina. Hello. And on Valentine's Day, you can just tell us how long you've been together.
35 years this year.
35 years. You look quite happy on it. I must say, both of you dressed in your complimentary Valentine's red. Very beautiful touch, which we have noted. Yeah. At which point did you drift into his life?
Well, it was through a friend that we got introduced, and then a couple of months later we ended up working in Spain, and Jeff came along, didn't you?
Yeah.
And we just met up coincidentally and fell in love.
It's really weird, isn't it, how we met, because my mum died when I was 21. And me and my mum were very, very close, and it broke my heart a little bit. So what I decided to do at the time, I go travelling around Europe. And I go travelling around Europe, and Gina, a fellow Scouser, I met her in Benidorm 35 years ago. And Benidorm wasn't what it was today, as it is now. And we were working there, and we fell in love, and we came back to Liverpool, and our life savings. And it's really weird, because Gina's from a market family as well. So I was from a market family, Gina was from a market family. We met in Benidorm, fell in love, came back to Liverpool, we had 300 quid our life savings and went into business on the markets.
I need to know, when did you realise that he couldn't read? Because lots of women would be put off by that, actually.
Well, we'd been together for, in Spain we'd been together, hadn't we? And then when we came back and we wanted to go into business, he had to tell me then. But to me, it wasn't anything...
You became, in a way, his shield and his kind of
writing hand, really.
Saviour, his writing hand, as you say, and you developed a kind of way of getting round life. In a restaurant, for example, you both pick up the menu. You couldn't read a word of it.
No, I'd quickly scan for Jeff. I wouldn't look what I want to do. I'd quickly scan to see what Jeff liked, and in conversation I'd say, oh, the beef Wellington looks good, Jeff, and have it natural, because I knew how terrified he was.
And when it came to signing things in banks, you would say something clever so that he could sign it and squiggle, because you couldn't really sign it.
Well, Gina used to have to accompany me everywhere, and we would, we'd built up a big business, Vanessa, and we were doing very well. And I found myself in the bank doing, £500,000 deals with them, and I'd go in and pitch the deal. And because you become a good talker because you look at your strengths and your weaknesses. My strength was I could talk. My weakness was I couldn't write. So I'd pitch the deal. The bank manager was great. Yeah, okay, do the deal. And then he'd put me all the paperwork towards me and say, "Oh, Jeff, just fill that in." But Gina was.
Okay, you carry on talking. I'll sign that.
Absolutely amazing. Of course, the people who rumbled you, as so often happens in this world, your own children. Because you could deceive the heads of huge companies and bank managers, but when it came to your own little kids, that didn't work, did it?
No, I came home one night, and can you imagine how I felt? I had a £1 million business, lived in a £500,000 home. In those days, we're going back 24 years ago.
Huge success.
It was a real success, and we had all the trimmings, and we lived the millionaire lifestyle. I think it was great. And I pull into my beautiful farm, and I go in the kitchen. Gina says to me, "Just nip up and say goodnight to the girls." So I ran upstairs, and then my two little daughters, Katie at that time was 7 and Faye was 5, sitting in their little beds like that, and they went, "Daddy, read us a story." So I picked up this book, this nursery rhyme book, and I looked at the pictures, all big pictures on it and writing, and I just went to pieces.
Excuse me, yeah.
I just totally went to pieces, and panic sets in, and I started to make up words, and I started to look at the pictures and say, whatever, and I started to make up words, and my 7-year-old daughter said, "Daddy, you're being silly, you can't read." And I said, "I can, darling, I can. Good night, God bless." And I went downstairs and I cried my eyes out.
Let's bring Jonathan in on this, because everything you've been saying, he's been nodding away and nodding away. Now, you're an expert in illiteracy, and it's far more common than most people would care to admit. And this hiding it, building up an elaborate facade, that's very common.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 1 person in 6 in the UK today has significant problems with literacy. And exactly as Jeff's been saying, one of the first things they learn to do is hide it. And, Jeff's book is an amazing story of actually how skillful people become in hiding, and that everyone's got their own tactics. But it makes it harder and harder to actually deal with it, because the more levels you put and the deeper you hide your literacy problems, the harder it is to actually extract those problems and deal with them.
Now, you've helpfully mentioned Jeff's book, which is called A Pocket Full of Holes and Dreams. And people watching will be thinking, hang on a minute, this is the bloke that can't read. Yeah. This is the bloke that's wife has to read the menu to him. Yeah. This is the bloke that, as Jonathan says, has been so successfully hiding it for years. How come you've written a book? Who wrote it?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I wrote every word in the book, and I'll tell you how it came about. When I'd gone into the fashion business and I'd over 30 odd years, in 92 recession, I lost everything, then I fought my way back and I built up another empire. And what happened in 2002, I was 48 years of age, and I got invited to the Fashion Awards, and they give me the highest accolade. They give me a gold award for being the most outstanding retailer this country's produced.
Which is phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank you. And at that point in my life, I came out of the closet, if you like, and I started telling people around me. And I employed all these staff, and none of my staff knew. Some of my closest friends for many, many years, and I started saying to them, "I can't read and write, And the reason why I wanted them to know is, for the first time when I won those awards, I felt equal as the man standing next to me, or the woman standing next to me, because I always felt in fear of them being intelligent and me being not intelligent. Yeah. So I'd lived in that fear all my life. So when I won those awards, that changed everything. And I told everybody, and they all said, "You've got to write a book," because my life has been a coastal ride.
And you said, "Excuse me, I can't read and write."
Well, I said,
how am I going to write a book?
How can you write a book with 3 or 4 letter words? Because that was my limit. Yeah. So I went to have an examination, and I had a reading ability of a 7-year-old at 54 years of age. So my wife and I we went to the library in our local library. For the first time, I had time on my hands because I'd come out of business. I had time on my hands, and everybody around me was saying, write this book.
I mean, we know the ending, because here's the book. I mean, you wrote it, you conquered it. Let's just ask Jonathan. I mean, is he... I mean, he's obviously an exceptional man. We can tell that because his success is remarkable. But is he exceptional in being able to conquer the inability to read at a fairly advanced age? Or can anybody who really applies themselves become fairly comfortable reading?
Certainly most people can be helped, and an awful lot of people who think they're beyond help really can find ways through reading and writing. I think, you know, Jeff just mentioned he took that first step of going to a library, and actually it's that informal thing. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go straight to a college and enroll in a class, but actually beginning to surround yourself with books, looking at words, those kind of things,
aren't you?
but also the support of someone else.
Yes.
It's very important to share the issue with somebody, and you know that there's fantastic practical things out there. There's a national helpline called Learn Direct, which you can get. There's your local library, which, you know, okay, libraries are under threat at the moment, but they're still there. There's a whole range. Your union, if you're employed, lots of unions now have union learning reps who are there to help you. So there's lots of resources. You're not on your own.
Big congratulations to you. It's the most phenomenal book, and I know it's speeding right up the bestseller list. Got a pocket full of holes and dreams. It's been brilliant to meet you both. Thank you very much indeed for coming in, and hugely encouraging to anybody watching this who can't read. So thanks to Jeff, Gina and Jonathan.